And thank you, Congressman Langford. We appreciate that update. You know, most people agree that roads and bridges and funding for those is a core function of government. But with respect to Oklahoma, that's not always been the approach. Joining us now is Mark Liotta, Chief Deputy County Commissioner and former House Appropriations Chair for Transportation. Mark, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off. You heard Secretary Ridley talking about the picture before in Oklahoma and where we've come from, where we've gone. Well, you were a key piece of that. So what was it like going through the legislature and trying to get transportation on the table?
Well, put yourself in my place. When I took over as Appropriations Chair, we had not funded appropriately transportation for over 20 years, and the net result of that was a $6 billion backlog of maintenance. When you don't do maintenance, a bridge with a 50-year lifespan, if you do the maintenance on it, you can make it last 80 years if you have to, but if you don't do the maintenance, it's not going to last. And so that's the system that we inherited that had not been appropriately maintained, did not have the dollars to do that. And we came in on the heels of a gas tax increase that failed miserably. It was the attempt to inject funding into transportation. So I looked at that as, okay, here's our opportunity. Instead of trying to increase taxes, let's look at what we currently get and redirect those dollars into transportation. What we did was we looked at any new revenue, because I didn't want to fight with other funding priorities to try to get dollars into transportation. So we said, okay, any new dollars that come into the state, let's direct those to transportation right off the top and try to ramp up transportation funding to what it should be. And so our plan was to basically double the transportation over a 5 or 6 year period to get the dollars in to start working on this maintenance backlog. So we did that. We also prioritized bridges. Mm-hmm. We directed the legislature or the Department of Transportation to focus on the worst of the worst across the state. We did also take the project selection process away from the legislature voluntarily. And it's probably the biggest miracle that we accomplished was we got legislators to give up that power to specifically choose projects. We put that in the hands of DOT and the 8-year plan. We let their engineers, their experts, the folks that know the system, know the needs of the system, let them decide where those dollars get spent.
You mentioned a second ago that part of the challenge was every other agency that wanted resources, and how do you find new resources? So every year now, the budget continues to grow at the Capitol, and every agency has a reason why they need a 5, 10, 20% increase for some. How do we maintain funding for a core system of government here in that environment? How do you continue to make sure we don't run into the situation you walked into in 2005?
Well, it takes prioritization, and I think that's the second miracle that has happened since 2006, is the legislature has kept the focus on transportation. Governor Fallin has picked up that baton and run with it. The legislature has avoided the temptation to reinsert themselves in the project selection process, and so that has worked very well, keeping transportation. And you got to remember, of the total state budget, at the most, transportation is 7%. Mm-hmm. So we're in there with some big guns fighting over those dollars.
A lot of folks think of transportation as the road or the bridge in their neighborhood, and they see some construction. But what do our roads and bridges, our highway system, what does it mean for the state? What are we talking about here? How important is this subject?
Well, you've never built a bridge that decreased economic development. Every opportunity to get somewhere more efficiently on a smoother road, across a bridge that you can take a significant load across, all that equates to an economic development. And it equates to safety. One of the issues going on in Tulsa right now is we're looking at a couple of bridges across the Arkansas, and one of the major reasons for that is so ambulances can get to the hospital quicker from the suburbs, from Jinx, or to get folks around downtown on the west side of town on the Gilcrease. So anytime you can improve efficiencies in getting products to market or folks to work, you're adding to economic development, you're strengthening the economy in your area.
So I want to ask you, you mentioned a county activity that you're involved in now, so you've been involved with the state and county. I want to ask you about bureaucracy and how we're all working together, because I got to tell you, I live out in Canadian County, and there's times that I feel like either the state, the city, or the county has a problem with those of us that live in Canadian County, because it seems like there's several projects overlapping that make either personal or commerce tough, although it is progress. So what's it like working between the county and the state and the feds?
You know, that's a common complaint. Folks just see orange barrels and they don't care if it's a city orange barrel or a county orange barrel or a state orange barrel. The problem that you run into is you do road maintenance and improvements when you have the money. When the money shows up, that's when you do the project. And so that limits your ability to plan things quickly. The relationship that the counties and the state have is very good. Part of our road plan, we doubled funding for counties, and instead of writing 77 checks, we set up a process where the counties apply for the dollars through the DOT on a per project basis. They work together through their circuit engineering districts and select projects together instead of on their own.
This is fantastic information. Will you stick around
Sure.
for our lightning round later and help us out? Ride sharing, do you do it? Still ahead, we'll discuss ride sharing trends like Uber and Lyft and what effect they have on our state. And we'd like to know what you think about all this. Please send us your thoughts and comments on this or whatever else you're concerned about for the state of Oklahoma on our Facebook or Twitter pages at MiddleGround TV. We'll be right back.